Welcome to the Freelance Unlocked Behind the Scenes series, where I'm showcasing the amazing people who will be at a Freelance Unlocked Conference, the first and the best conference for freelancers that is made with love, and it'll take place in Berlin on May 14th, 15th, 2025. If you're a freelancer in Europe, it's an event made for you to learn, exchange experiences, and build your network of great freelancers and experts who move the freelance economy forward. So go to freelanceunlocked.com and grab your ticket right away. My name is Yuri, I'm a community builder at Freelance Unlocked, and my guest is Christine Vallaure, the founder of Moonlearning.io, a learning platform where design meets code, and the author of the Solo.io, a practical guide to building and growing digital products as a company of one. So, hello, Christine.
Hello.
Super happy to have this conversation with you. Finally, we are here. Can't wait to listen to your amazing topic on the freelance unlock. But let's start with this. How are you connected with the freelance world?
So in the classic way of freelancing, right, where you would say that you're exchanging your time for money, you have a contract and the client, I was working as a freelancer for 10 years. And then during that time, I always had the urge to build a product. So about 4 years ago, during the pandemic, I had more time than I wanted to. And then I started building my platform, which you mentioned, Moonlearning. And I started creating like online courses and just a general platform for anything related to UX and UI design. And I kept certain aspects of freelancing, like the working by yourself, and mixed it together with a more entrepreneurial, more like a building a product. And so for me, that's like my happy place where I ended up.
You told that you had an urge to build a product. And I know that not everyone really wants to build a product. They just want to have clients and just work with them. So why did you have this urge?
I think it's very personal. I wouldn't say everyone has to build a product. Some people are perfectly happy in having a freelance job, which also gives you a lot of stability. You know, you have your fixed hours but for me, it was this time for money, it just didn't feel right. And also, I think as a designer, most designers, they love to polish a product. They love to go into the detail. They love to just see that grow. And a lot of the time, if you're a designer, a freelance designer, then you design something. You design someone else's idea. You have to change it to their ideas and to their expectation. And then once it's just at a nice level, you give it away. So it just didn't feel like how I naturally work, like how I'm at my best.
And then no, I'm not giving it to your way. I just want to improve it and improve it and improve it and continue doing this.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like sort of the little details, and then you have an idea, and also the freedom that it gave me, that if you have that idea, that you can just jump in and you can like just try out that idea, which is, if you're in a freelance contract, you can't really do that because you have to justify your hours. So sometimes I polish little details that nobody will ever look at, but I just really enjoy it and I just want to do it that way.
At least you see them.
I see
I know
them
this
every
feeling.
day.
Exactly. So I'm curious, what is your quick take on the freelance economy and how it will develop in the near future?
So, I mean, the thing is, it's always so in sync with the economy itself. So if you're a freelancer at good times, then it's amazing. You earn well, you can choose your project, but you're also depending a lot on the economy and what's happening. So you're the first one to be cut usually because it's easy to get rid of you. And so that is also why I feel so passionate about, as a freelancer, you don't have to have a full-time project building your own products. But at least as a side project, that you have different income streams, that's going to make it you're just going to sleep better at night. If you have your freelance gigs, if you're having your product that you can build on. And I think it's also like a lot of people just have a side project, but I think that side project, you can turn it into something real, because you operate in an economy that as a freelancer, it's going to be like this, whether you like it or not.
And I feel like exactly building your product is kind of like helping you to smooth this ups
Yeah.
and downs. You're kind of like making them a little bit smaller. And the more you build on your product, the more you're creating something of yours, the less you really depend on whether you have clients or whether you don't have clients. So I totally understand why you decided to build your personal product. Okay. So give me a sneak peek into what you'll be talking about on the Freelance Unlocked stage.
So at Freelance Unlocked, I'm going to be talking about how to build, launch, and grow your own digital product as a company of one. And to go a little bit into that, like when I first started building Moonlearning, it was a side project. It was just something little I started, and I didn't take it so seriously, and people didn't take it so seriously. And then once it started growing, and suddenly I had more like I did a platform grew, but also the financial returns from that platform grew. People suddenly, got all of this unsolicited advice of I had to get funding and I had to hire people and had to grow. And people just gave me this impression that if you want this to be real, then there is these steps that you have to go. And I got very confused because I'd never done something like this. So your first reaction is like, oh, they must know. And I looked into it, and then at some point I was like, but I don't want to sell this, I don't want an exit. I don't want stakeholders. I really, really enjoy the way that I'm working. And so something in my head flipped when I read about the indie hackers.
Hmm.
I don't know if for those who are not familiar with it, it's a group. It's usually more developer focused, and they build little products. It's things like 12 products in 12 months or something like that. And just this freedom of just building. And I was like, I can do this with a less technical product too. And so I got just so much joy out of finding this other road that I wrote it all down in a little handbook that's called the Solo IO, which you mentioned. And so, yeah, I'm really passionate about this way of working because I think it's so much freedom, and sometimes we think someone has to sign this permission slip for us to work a certain way when you can just really just do it and just cut out the noise and just build something nice.
I talk to many freelancers and it feels like almost every one person on a five have some kind of side project, something they are building for themselves
So
and stuff.
build.
But it's always hard to find this moment where side project becomes main project. So I'm curious, what was this turning point? At what moment did you understand, like, oh, it will be my main project?
Um, That's a good point. I think I started building it in such a strange time, like during COVID, and it was sort of a blessing in a strange way because this whole pressure was off because there wasn't an economy as a freelancer at that moment of time. So I think, I mean, the real moment when you say this is like my project is when you finally your finance or your income from your side project surpasses your freelance job or your contract job. So that was for me, I think for me personally, it really was the moment where I'm like, okay, I can live off this. Like this is something I can dedicate my time, but it's not like an expensive hobby that I'm maintaining. It's really just something that I can live off. And it's a really beautiful feeling because you open up this very creative space with very little pressure and stress. And I don't know where else you would
Hmm.
find that. It's a very unique thing if you manage to get there. And I don't think it's as hard as people think it is.
Yeah, the hardest part is when you are creating this big picture and like you see that someone's success and then but you don't know the whole journey. You don't know that they started doing this like four or
Yeah.
5 years ago. You think that they just become this overnight success, but then you start learning and you understand like, this person was working for 5 years on this project. That's why it's so amazing already. So people are missing this part. And a little bit of spoiler. In your book Solo, which I definitely tell everyone to go and read because it's like the guide on how to really grow your solo career, solopreneurship. But many freelancers, they worry that the market is too crowded, that everyone has their books, that everyone has their products, that everyone has their podcasts, and they think that there is no place for them. So, how to stand out when there are so many projects, so many products already?
I mean, I find it really funny because people always and I get this question a lot that people go like, yeah, but if you do that, then isn't there is a lot of other people that do it? And I'm like, yeah, but if you're going for a freelance job, there's a lot of other creatives that, are probably much better designers than me. If I go for a contract job, there are a lot of people that are better at that. It's like you're not going to be the best, not in your contract job, not in your freelance job. It's that you're just going to be one of many, and you bring a lot of stuff, a lot of different things to the table. And I think in a freelance job, for example, a big part of it that people keep on booking you is your quality of work, but it's also being reliable, being a nice team member, fitting their team. It's a really, really important part. And if you're creating a digital product, then you can create that in many different ways. You can make it really personal. Some people are brilliant with social media. It's something that, to me, that doesn't come naturally, so I don't focus on that. But for me, for example, I like nitty-gritty details. I like really diving deep into things, and so that was just made my courses a little different. And I think so. I mean, anybody writing, working in, I don't know, marketing or economics or business teachers will probably are just going to start crying what I'm going to say now. But I don't write a business plan. I don't do research. I literally just like, I think this is great and I'm going to do this. Now, it's not absurd, it's like, I'm not talking about, I don't know, orchids or something like that. I'm talking about software that people use and people have problems with it. And I saw that they have problems using it in a certain way. And then I make it easier for them to use it. And I do all the research and all the digging and all the stuff. And I give them a short course where they can learn all of these skills, that they would otherwise sort of be frustrated in their daily work. And I think this is just what each of us can do, like sort of find your little niche and then you just throw it out. And there's 8 billion people in the world, and there's going to be a niche that it fits your product. The tricky part is finding your niche. That I agree. And that is just about publishing free articles, free YouTube videos, just the authentic way in which you work, publish it, and then people will find you with that free content. And it takes time. You don't have a budget as a solopreneur for big marketing campaigns, for big ads. But bit by bit, you do find people find you. Then you can speak at meetups. From meetups, you go to a conference. To some people prefer doing a podcast. I like writing the book, and it's all little bits and pieces. And also, I mean, I don't want to sell the wrong thing. I'm not going to be able to live off one book. It's lots of different products and things that it's like sort of all is one pot in the end.
It's like this big rivers. When you see like huge rivers, you understand like it didn't start that way. There are so many smaller rivers that goes into this big one, and then you see this huge river like that crushing everything on its way. And I'm curious. So you talked about going through finding your niche, and very important moment that once again I've heard that you have to talk to people, you have to go to conferences, you have to share something with them. And I feel like it's all about a feedback. So I'm wondering, when did you start sharing your journey openly?
Oh, really late in the process. It was really funny because when I started Moonlearning, that's why it's called Moonlearning, like I didn't put my name. I thought it had to be a company. It had to look like, there were like lots of people working there. It was just always me answering every email that came in, which is still the way. But now I'm like, no, it's just me. And I think noticed at some point that when I was sort of pretending that I'm some sort of client service, people were just rude and annoyed. When I'm like, hey, this is me. I'm the person you just listened to for the last 3 hours. And I'm here at home and I'm answering your mail at 11 o'clock at night. People are like, oh, wow. And it's like one guy I remember wrote me a super angry email. And then I wrote back and I'm like, and he's like, oh, you're the voice in the bit. I'm like, yeah, that's me. He's like, and he was like super nice. In the end, he invited me over to their office and everything. And I think I was always told the story of, the big scaling and the big thing. And I noticed like and I'm not saying it's wrong. I think there's just that there's more space for everything. And I think people really, I noticed that suddenly I got more questions about the way I work. And they're like, so you don't hire? And in the time when I could say it confidently, when I was like, no, I don't hire because I don't want to. I want to stay one person. I want to do this. I want you to be able to send me an email and get a reply. Then I got such a nice connection. And so this was just something that for me, it worked well, but it took a long time. I was talking at Smashing Conference and then they were like, you have to put a picture of yourself on the website. And I was like, no, there's no picture of me. And then like, Christine, like people need to, like, if you go on the stage and one picture. And I was like, picture. So it was really like a process then, because also it's also a vulnerable side, no, of you when you share your story and who you are, like. And I mean, I don't show private stuff. Other people, they show like their private life, their kids, and it's also fine if that is what
Yeah.
works for you. You have to find like sort of a balance that you feel comfortable with.
What are the biggest challenges of being a company of one?
I mean, I'm a bit like I don't know. I'm like someone in love now who only sees the good side of things. So I'm a bit like that. I really enjoy most of it all the time because it really gives me so much freedom. I think sometimes probably expertise that it takes you much longer to figure out certain things. But then I have to say I have a great network, and I talk to my network when I have a problem, and I just call up every client service of every software I use. They know me by name now, love and hate me. I don't, for me, I don't see downsides, but I think that is because it fits my personality. And I think it's very important that you find a job that resonates with how you are truly. And if you are a team person, and don't do the solo venture ever, you gotta be really lonely and sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just cry a little here because I totally get what
You were
you're
both,
talking
right?
about.
You were
But
both.
because when you are going through some kind of a journey, when you are a creator, when you are doing something that you really care about, and I see it from my side, when I'm doing some podcasts that I really care about and having those amazing conversations with these amazing people, and then hear zero feedback, I'm like, oh, okay, it sucks. But then sometimes coming like, oh, it was like amazing podcast. I've learned so much. I'm like, where have you been for 2 years? You are listening for podcast for 2 years. Where have you been for 2 years? Why didn't you tell me anything? So
Ah, yeah. No, that's actually really true what you say. I forgot about that. This is like you put something out there and you think like this is the best piece of it. It's fantastic. And absolutely nobody cares. That's you're like, what? And then you put some random, like if I look at like the post that got most likes and most followers, it's like, I'm like, really? Like that's what you like. So that, yeah, that's true. That is a bit strange.
that's what you want. I'm not going there. I'm not.
Exactly, yeah. Some stuff I'm like, no, I'm sorry, it's gonna stop right here.
So for freelancers who want to build their own product but don't know where to start, what's one actionable step they can take right away?
Well, shameless self-promotion. No, you can buy the book. Well, no, you can actually, if you go on the page, thesolo.io, then I have a huge free sample, so you can read that and see. And there I have a first thing with idea generation. That's part of the free sample. And I think that's usually the first thing that they think their ideas are either super brilliant or they think they have no ideas. And it's a bit like, it's about getting started. And I think when you get started, it's about being very structured, not overthinking, and just be like, I'm going to build a very simple product, a very first simple thing, because I think there's so much power in putting out that first tiny thing that is yours, that you made, people react to, you start building a mailing list, people comment on it. And then from there, it's like you already have something, you're building on top. And I think do that rather than putting all your money aside, having a strategy for a year. I think people are signing up for these crazy expensive like workshops on how to strategize. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's great stuff that comes out of that, but you can literally just sit down, have a week, build an MVP, put it out there, and then just take it step by step and not overcomplicate it. That would be my advice in the way that I built, which is not the right way for everyone.
Yeah, it's always a disclaimer.
As always, there must be a disclaimer.
You must make your own mistakes. Don't follow my mistakes.
No, I think I got so frustrated with everybody for so many years telling me exactly how it works that
Yeah.
I'm very happy to share what works for me, but I also don't want to pretend that I'm like, this is how you build it. It's like, no, this is one way that you could approach this.
By the way, totally not shameless promotion. I'm already halfway through your book, and I totally believe that people have to not just see a small part, but really to read the whole book, because that's exactly where you have the ideas, what to do, how to go. And even if you won't act on everything, at least you know what are the ways of doing things. And I feel like it's very important not act on everything. Focus on one thing, but knowing that there are different ways and different things that you can try and then find what suits you best. And Christine, I really wish to have the sky is the limit, but time is the limit to our conversation. So the final question. What would you say to your friend if they asked you whether they should go to the Freelance Unlocked?
I would say, of course, you should go. I have to say, I haven't been there before. So I'm really excited as well. It's going to be my first time. And I'm especially excited because I do a lot of conferences, but I haven't come across one where everybody works in the way which I do as a freelancer or company of one. So for me, this is, I think, an event where I can truly do a word I hate, networking. But I think that's going to be very nice because usually it's very hard to find these communities, and there are so many things you want to talk about and you want to swap ideas. So I think that's going to be really nice.
And what is the best way to connect with you even before the conference?
So the platform I'm most active is LinkedIn. And follow me on LinkedIn. So there I share a lot of things. And otherwise, also feel free to reach out.
Got it, Christine. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom even before the conference. And I can't wait to learn even more from you on Freelance Unlocked and hope to see you very soon in person.
Well, I see you soon in Berlin.
And for those who listen, I hope you learned from Christine's experience and say thank you to her in person at the Freelance Unlocked Conference on May 14th, 15th, 2025 in Berlin. So go to the freelanceunlocked.com, grab your ticket and meet you there.